Have you ever considered how much Europe continues to rely on Russian gas, despite everything going on in the world? Today, we'll look at the astonishing fact that Europe buys just as much gas from Russia as China. We will discuss how the situation in Ukraine has flipped the energy world upside down, the challenges Russia faces in establishing connections with China, and how Turkey is emerging as a crucial actor in this scenario. In addition, we'll talk about what all of this implies for Europe's energy future as it seeks to break away from Russian dependence. After delving into the most recent data and trends, I'll provide some insights into how this energy tug-of-war may affect not only European countries, but the global energy scene as well. But before we get into the details, click the like and subscribe buttons. We're all about bringing you the most recent and greatest information, so don't miss out. Okay, let's get right into it. Let's discuss something that has become quite significant in today's environment: gas exports, primarily from Russia. With all of the global drama surrounding energy supply, particularly following the crisis in Ukraine, things have been quite wild. So let's look at what's going on with Russian gas exports, focusing on how they're dealing with Europe, China, and Turkey. First, let's set the scene. Even though Russia has cut off much of its natural gas supply to Europe, it is still able to deliver an equivalent amount to China. According to recent Bloomberg figures, Gazprom, Russia's state-owned gas behemoth, exported approximately 14.6 billion cubic meters of natural gas to Europe in the first half of 2024. That is a considerable figure, especially given the backdrop of sanctions and political turmoil. Now here's where things get interesting. During the same period, Russia shipped 15.2 billion cubic meters to China. It's almost as if they're performing balancing acts to keep both markets satisfied. Gazprom is still transporting gas via pipelines, mainly through Ukraine and the Turk Stream pipeline, which is critical for supplying gas to numerous Central European nations. So, despite the disarray, Russia remains in the game. Now let's go back to early 2022, when everything altered radically. Before the Ukraine war, Russia supplied roughly one-third of Europe's natural gas demand. They were moving between 130 and 175 billion cubic meters per year. But then the conflict occurred, and things went wild. In reaction to the situation, Russia began cutting off supplies to other countries that supported Ukraine. Countries such as Poland, Bulgaria, and Finland found themselves in a difficult situation after their gas supplies were abruptly cut. By June 2022, Gazprom began reducing deliveries to Germany via the Nord Stream pipeline, citing maintenance concerns. But let's be honest, everyone knew it was more about the penalties than anything else. In September 2022, the Nord Stream pipelines were disrupted. That was a game changer, effectively cutting off a major supply line for Russian gas to Germany and, by implication, the rest of Europe. It was a remarkable turn of events that sent several European governments racing for solutions. Fast forward to 2024, and Russia's gas exports remain stable, but at a quarter of their previous levels. The 14.6 billion cubic meters shipped to Europe in the first half of this year are a sobering reminder of how much things have deteriorated since before the conflict. It's 10 times lower than pre-war levels, but it demonstrates that Gazprom was able to keep certain pipelines functioning. Meanwhile, the 15.2 billion cubic meters delivered to China demonstrate Russia's tilt toward Asia. But here's the kicker. While these figures may appear great, they are still a far cry from their glory days. Russia's earnings from European gas sales have plummeted, which is a significant blow to the country's economy. Now, let's speak about Russia's attempts to cuddle up to China. With all of that gas going east, you'd think Russia would be in a good spot, right? Not exactly. While Russia has been supplying considerable volumes of gas to China, it has been unable to obtain any new long-term deals beyond the existing projects. Beijing is keeping its cool and taking a careful approach to new energy projects. They want to ensure that any deals benefit them, so Russia must tread carefully. In recent discussions, Russian officials have expressed optimism, predicting that gas supplies to China will increase by 2025 and 2027. The reality is that the average price of gas traveling to China is substantially lower than what Russia used to charge European customers, complicating matters further. Now Turkey enters the scene. Turkey has emerged as an important player in the European gas market, particularly as the EU seeks to lessen its dependency on Russian gas. Turkish Energy Minister Alparslan Bayraktar has been vocal about Turkey's willingness to increase gas shipments to the EU. However, he has made it clear that they require demand guarantees from the EU before increasing output and exports. One of the strategies Turkey is considering is re-exporting Azeri natural gas. This might be a win-win situation, but Turkey may need to purchase more Russian gas to maintain balance. It's a bit of a juggling act, and the financial consequences for Russia are serious. In essence, any money the EU spends on Russian gas might end up in Turkey's bank account, keeping Russia's revenue streams consistent. Turkey also has a geographical advantage. It is excellently located to serve as a transit point for gas heading to Europe. Turkey's current capacity to export gas to Bulgaria is roughly 3.5 billion cubic meters per year, but it has the potential to quadruple to 7 billion cubic meters if infrastructure is expanded. Turkey and Bulgaria signed an agreement in 2023 that will allow Bulgaria's state-owned enterprise, Bulgar Gas, to import 1.85 billion cubic meters of gas per year via a new interconnection. This arrangement is critical because it addresses around 60% of Bulgaria's annual demand. However, there is a catch. Bulgargas must pay a hefty €2 billion service charge to Turkey's gas firm BOTAŞ over a 13-year term, regardless of whether it uses the entire capacity. Looking ahead, the situation is still quite fluid. Europe is on a mission to acquire an alternative gas supply as reliance on Russian gas grows increasingly dangerous. Ukraine has indicated that it would not extend its current transit arrangement with Russia when it expires, which is a major red flag for European energy security. Meanwhile, Norway has moved in to fill some of the gaps created by Russia's reduced supplies. They presently provide over 30% of the EU's gas demand, which is considerable. However, to compensate for the predicted shortfall, the EU will require an additional 7.2 billion cubic meters of more expensive liquefied natural gas, LNG. This is where Turkey may step in, giving a potential lifeline to Europe while simultaneously assuring its energy security. The dynamics of the European gas market are complex and constantly changing. As the EU diversifies its energy sources, Turkey's role as a transit point for gas from both Azerbaijan and, potentially, Russia becomes increasingly important. It's a strategic chess match, and everyone is attempting to position themselves for the greatest potential result. To summarize, the panorama of Russian gas exports is everything but easy. As Russia negotiates its connections with Europe, China, and Turkey, it is evident that the rules are changing. While Gazprom continues to export large amounts of gas to both Europe and China, the geopolitical scene remains volatile. Turkey's growing position in the European gas market complicates matters further, emphasizing the importance of strategic relationships and shifting dynamics. As Europe looks to ensure its energy future in a post-Russian world, the interactions between these countries will be critical in deciding the future of energy supply. The current advances in this arena will undoubtedly evolve, making it an important subject to monitor. The world of energy is continually changing, and, as we've seen, the stakes are extremely high. How do you feel about Europe's efforts to transition away from Russian gas? Do you believe they'll be successful in finding reliable alternatives? I'd like to hear your ideas in the comments. And that concludes today. Thank you for participating in the chat. I look forward to seeing you again soon.